Today, I'm going to give you an in-depth breakdown of my song, Stardust. Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm going to take you over the computer here in 2 seconds, and I'm going to show you how I tracked, mixed, and mastered and applied effects and compression. I'm really just going to give you a deep dive on my song. I do suggest that you watch this video with headphones on or maybe on some studio monitors so you can hear the intricacies of what I'm showing. And before we slide over to the computer, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow a ton. Also, if you want to continue to support the channel, there are links below to my music, to my website, also links to the gear I use in my studio. If you purchase anything from those links, that also helps support the channel. And one last thing, I am not an award-winning mix engineer or mastering engineer. This is just what I've learned over the years that has gotten me by and my bands and my projects and have gotten me more and more opportunities. But of course, hopefully just like you, I'm always improving and always learning new things. And of course, this song is available on all major streaming platforms. All right, so like I said in the intro, this is my song, Stardust, and I'm gonna play a little sample for you so you can kind of get the vibe of the song. And the way I've set up right now is I actually have my mastering software and offboard gear on my master bus right now. So once we start kind of going through piece by piece, I'll bypass those so you can kind of hear how I built the song up. So this is, I'll do a little verse and a little chorus for you. So here's the verse. So that's the vibe we are working with for this song. So let's start with the drums. First, I'm going to bypass the mastering software and plugins. And I'm going to actually add a compressor, bus compressor on my master bus, and this is what it looks like. Just kind of simple setup just to kind of help glue it all together while breaking it down. So drums. Here we are. We got a little EQ happening right here off the top. This right here is to get rid of some of the harshness that the hi-hats are having. So I'll show you with and without this EQ cut. Just kind of takes the edge off a little bit, which it needed after I was done messing with it a bit. So let's take a look at what I got on the inserts. I've got a compressor, or excuse me, not compressor, saturation, the Kramer from Waves up here. I've got the SSL native strip 2 and the bus compressor on the drums. So let's kind of see what these are all doing. Just a kiss of compression on the bus compressor and a little bit on this channel strip. So let me show you what these are all doing individually. This is for the saturation. Now listen to the kick and snare. I feel like that's where you can hear the biggest difference with this bypassed and engaged. So I can start with it engaged. Kind of just gives the kick and snare especially a little more snap to them. So maybe 2 dB on the compressor, a little bit less once I bring in the channel strip because that is ahead of it in the chain. Looks like I have 50 hertz and below rolled off on the drum kit, 10K and above rolled off. I have a bump of almost 3 dB at about 75, and then a little bump at about 5K. And usually what I do when I'm doing drums is I like to write the drum track, and then I like to solo out each drum, export those, and then bring them back in as a wave. That way, it's almost as if I'm working with a multi-track drum kit. For this song, I wanted the drums to really kind of be one instrument. I didn't want to have kick, snare, hi-hat, room, things like that. So what I would normally do, and I've done a video on this before, I would solo an individual drum with no compression, no reverb or anything on it, export it, import it, then mix from there. But this song I did not do that with because I want it all kind of be together, glued together. So that is what I have for drums on this track. Oh, one last thing. I got 2 reverbs on this drum kit. Now that might seem weird, but let me show you each one does. So this is the room reverb. I have this set up as a effects channel. So this is what it sounds like with the room reverb on, and I'll also bring it up and down in the mix. More of a room sound with that reverb. So then space reverb, you can probably guess what it sounds like. It's gonna be a lot more of a tail to it. So I kind of wanted like a tail underneath a lot of this song, tail of reverb. So this is the space reverb on the drum kit. And I like the way they sounded kind of blended together. So that's why I have the 2 reverbs on the drum kit sound. Okay, so moving on to the guitars. So this is pretty simple setup. There's only really 3 guitar parts. There is 4 tracks. I'll show you why I have an outro guitar line. But let's break down these rhythm guitar parts for the chorus. This is what it sounds like. Okay, so to show you what I'm doing, I'm gonna just use one of them, center it, because right now I have hard left, hard right pans. And then I'm gonna show you, this is what it sounds like without anything on it. And when I'm tracking guitar, bass, vocals, things like that, that I'm actually performing, I run them into my Warm Audio WA73 EQ, into my Warm Audio WA76 compressor, and then into the DAW. So there's some compression on this already, but this is what it sounded like coming into the DAW. Okay, and another thing I did on this is I didn't play it, in order. You can actually see on this one, I would play a chord and let it ring out. Then I kind of cut and pasted it how I want it to be. So there's no play, slide, anything like that. It's just kind of like real distinct. And I also did a pretty big blend, crossfade, on the transitions to kind of give more of a soft transition. So you can see here on this one, for example, you can see the crossfade. It really gets into where the transient for the chord starts. So here it is again with nothing on it. Got a pretty lo-fi sound with the EQ I'm using, the mono delay, and then the chorus, of course. And the other thing I have on here is some sends. I have the sends going to the room reverb. So let's take a look at what I got going on here. Just simple mono delay, eighth notes there. And then for the EQ, everything under 200 gone. Don't want it in there. I don't want it. 9K boost, about 8 dB, and that's it there. I've also got some dynamics going on, some compression. And that's really the guitar sound I got here. And then of course, a bit of a chorus here. Real slow moving chorus. So both these guitars, hard left, hard right, are set the exact same way. So again, this is what it sounds like with them together. Pretty simple, very straightforward. Okay, let's move on to the lead guitar. So for this, I really want like a picky poke, tick-tacky sound. So what I did is I actually ran my compression on the front end pretty heavy-handed, and then I even added more compression down the line as well. So this is what it sounds like. I want it to be able to poke through the mix so you can really hear what's going on there. So insert-wise, a mono delay, EQ, and then sends, I have space reverb and ping pong delay. So let me turn these all off. So this is it, just bare bones right here. Very bland. So I'm gonna start bringing stuff in as we go. This is with the delay. EQ. Space reverb. So I wanted that mono delay and ping pong delay. I wanted a lot of movement with this lead guitar line. It's a lot of dancing around. So again here, EQ, I'm pretty sure it's EQ just like these other ones. Yeah, 200 cut, boost at 9, a little less of a boost at 9. Just only 1 dB, and then some compression here. So again, this is it, what it came in as. So a lot of sauce on that one. Basically what this other outro is, I was just not really being lazy. I didn't want these to step on each other's toes because the way this kind of chimes out, I like it. I wanted that to be able to keep going. So that's why I just right-click, duplicated, and just laid down and put these in there. So that's what this outro guitar is. It's the same sound and everything as this one, just copy-pasted to make just life a little bit easier. So the guitars together, this is what we're looking at. And this song kind of has like a melancholy feel to it. And I feel like the hard left, hard right guitars kind of have that feel to them. They kind of feel sick in a way. So that is how the guitars were done for the song. Okay, so now let's move on to bass guitar. And what I was trying to accomplish with this is I wanted kind of a thinner bass sound, a plucky, thinner bass sound, because I wanted to have sub bass in the song to really have different levels of dynamic when it came to frequency involvement. So this is what the bass guitar sounds right now. So used a pick, again, went into the preamp, the WA73 into the WA76, ran compression on that. And then I added some saturation, again, just like on the drums. So again, just a little bit. Don't want too much on there. A little bit on each track ends up being a lot. So I got saturation on there. So also on the bass guitar for this, the EQs might seem kind of weird the way I did them, but I'll try to explain why I did it the way I did it as I go along. So EQ wise, take a look here. This is just a Cubase EQ. So I have a cut at 113, pretty big cut. These are 4.5. Here's 5.3 at 263. We'll ignore this one up here. This is just probably getting rid of some of the harshy clackiness of the pick attack. So these right here might not seem much. I'm cutting some bass frequencies, but I wanted to do that. The reason I point those out is because in here, I'm actually adding at 106, almost 5 dB, which 106 and 113 are pretty close together. There's a cut and a boost there. But that's one thing I like about the SSL UC1 is I'm listening as I'm doing this, and they seem to just fit just right there where the bass guitar could still have some girth, but it wasn't going to get in the way of the sub bass. So also on this bass guitar, I have some dynamics, some compression going on. And one thing I do almost all my bass tracks these days is I add a room reverb onto them just to give that mono signal a little more size and just makes it sound like it's being played in a room, a live room. So here it is without. With. Okay, so that's what I did there on the bass. So also another thing I want to point out is I roll this off at 60. So I'm really trying to get rid of any of those sub bass frequencies because this bass here is my sub bass. Now I'm going to pull up the EQ here so you can see what frequencies this sub bass is really working with. So notice how it is all just low, low bass. And again, I hope you're wearing headphones or listening to this on studio monitor so you can actually hear this sub bass. So this is pretty simple. I just follow the root notes, a little EQ here, 35 and below, I have it rolled off there. Anything under 35 is just getting really rumbly and can add a lot of mud. And then I have some compression here just to kind of take away the initial hits of that sub bass, because all I want is just the warm bed of it all. And of course, just like the bass guitar, I have room reverb on it. Just to kind of give it some more color inside. So here's the chorus. This is when the sub bass first is introduced. This is it with the bass guitar, sub bass and bass guitar together. They really stay out of each other's way. Let me actually turn that on too. So that's the one thing I like about the way these blended together is there's a bass guitar and a sub bass, but they don't get in each other's way really at all. So that's what I did for the bass tracks on this song. All right, so now we're going to move on to the synthesizer and some production elements. So this song starts out with synth. That's it. So let me play just the first few seconds of this song. Okay, so we have a dirty ARP sound here and an air pad. So let's break down the dirty ARP first. So EQ here, we've got a couple dips at 200 hertz and about 1,000 hertz. So just to probably take away some of the resonant sounds we don't want with this dirty ARP. So let me show you what it sounded like before I did anything to it. This is it just by itself. Now I'm going to bring things in as we go. So I'm going to start engaging these sounds. So you can hear there's a lot going on there. And just so you know, the dirty ARP, the air pad, and the sub bass are all from this Diva plugin that I absolutely love. So I've got a couple things on here, like the delay and chorus are actually on the plugin itself. Let's see, do I have anything? The bass, I don't have any. Bass is just straight raw. So the Diva plugin, I use it on almost all of my tracks. I absolutely love it. It's very powerful. It takes quite a bit of horsepower from the computer, but it's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's just take a look here. Let's break this down. So we got rotor, we got auto pan, we got our EQ, and we've got our reverb. So we're going to hold off on the reverb for a second because I'm going to explain a couple things there. Looking at the EQ, we've got cut at 150 again, just clean up the bottom end. We don't want to get in the way of the lower frequencies that can cause mud. We got a pretty big boost here at 6K, pretty big boost here at 3.5K. And that's pretty much it. It looks like we got some dynamics here. A little compression there. And then again, we got rotary with some overdrive on it. And then just a simple auto pan to kind of just give some movement to that track. Because again, this is it without So I just wanted some personality there. Okay, so now the reverb, I'm going to show you what I did here. I did some automation with the mix and the volume of this track. So this top automation line here, this is for the mix of the reverb. So you'll see this move up as it gets to the peak right here. Basically what I want to do is once the lead guitar comes in and starts taking over, I wanted the synthesizer to kind of turn into a pad and kind of vanish. And then while it's turning into a pad here, it gets pretty overwhelming, so I dip the volume. So what I'm going to do is point out, as this is playing, I'm going to kind of circle a couple things with my mouse, and you can watch them change, and you can hear what the ARP's doing as it's being automated. So you can hear how those play together. Bringing in the mix, so the ARP kind of just whoosh, washes out into nothingness, and then the volume kind of bringing it down so it's not overwhelming. So I can play that again, a little closer to here, but with everything unmuted. So you can kind of hear how that works with the mix. And then by the time that next guitar line comes in, it's kind of washed out most of the way. But I just like the way that it all worked together, worked really well. So that's just automation. Some songs and projects I work on, I do so much automation. And some of them are more like this. That's a lot more simple when it comes to automation. I mean, like this lead guitar part, I have a volume automation here. I mean, that's all I did with that. So that was the dirty ARP. So let's move on to the air ARP. This is just like what it sounds like. I just need a super airy synth sound. This is with no effects on it right now. Has a bit of body to it, things like that, which I want to get rid of. So I have a ping pong delay, pretty straightforward. A chopper, let me show you what that sounds like real quick so you have an idea. Just adding some movement to the synth. Ping pong, of course, you know what that is, ping pong delay. And then EQ looks like I got a 10K here, and then I have it rolled off at 450, so nothing under that, which perfect. This is an air. I don't want any low end with my air synthesizer. Looks like I got it boosted about 7, a couple other EQ bits here. I cut it pretty good at 1.5K, another one at 500, -7, so really just focusing on the high end here. And then some compression here. If it's even triggering it, it might be a little too soft. Yeah, it might be like 1 or 2 dB in there, not really lighten up much. Then we got our sense here, room reverb to really make it washy. So you hear quite a bit of difference there. And that goes under most of the song just to add that air to the whole thing. Okay, so now moving on to a production track. Sometimes in tracks, I'll have bass drops, reverse cymbal swells, whooshy washes, all kinds of things going on in the background. This song, all I really wanted was a big, fat, reverse crash wash that lasted forever. Again, that really was in the airy air, high frequency. So what we have here is, let me play it with no effects or anything. This is just what I brought in, what I imported. Super tight, cuts off really fast. And this is what it sounds like after I did some modifications to it. You don't really hear that hard cut off. It just keeps washing because I want that wash underneath a lot of this track. And I have, 8 total reverse swell washes. So what I did here is I really have the high cranked here. So 22K 20 dB boost, just cranked out of its mind. And then I also have some compression here, so watch what happens on this compression when it gets to this swell part. Really cranks up there because I want it to stay tame, so that tameness can just wash over on the reverb. And reverb here, I have it directly on the track. 15-second reverb, 100% depth. It just goes and goes and goes. Now, it's pretty quiet in the track. I haven't been adjusting volumes or anything to mess with the mix, but this is pretty quiet. But I'm going to play the whole track for you now. I bet you're going to hear it. I bet you it's going to stand out. But if you didn't know it was there, it doesn't really stand out too much. So here it is, the full mix. And because I'm using a lot of the same reverbs on all this, all the reverbs kind of, they hand off to each other very nicely. It's not very abrupt. So that's the reverse crash I have in here, which I think fits the track super well. And I just, like I said, to me it's like a handoff going into different parts of the song. So here's just going to the chorus. So that's what I have on this song for production. Like I said, some projects I work on, I have a lot more. This one, all I wanted was just a big, fat, washy reverse cymbal swell. All right, now we're kind of to the home stretch, but before we get to how I master my tracks, I want to go over something real quick I didn't do on this particular song, but just something for you to have in your knowledge when working. Something do not be afraid to do would be to EQ your effects channels. So right down here, I have my room reverb, and you can go into these tracks and you can EQ them. So let's say you want to just make sure there's nothing under 150 in here on your reverb track. You can do that. Or you can bring down your high. Whatever you need to do, you can work within your effects track and make cuts to that as well. So I do that maybe half my tracks or so. I didn't do it in this one, but I just want to point it out as maybe just a tip that you can have and you can move forward with. So the song is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I mean, how many tracks we got here? We got 10 tracks of musical elements and then 3 effects tracks. This is a very small project for myself. So what I do for mastering is, especially when there's a track this size, this small, I will just work within the same project when it comes to mastering. I'll just work off my master bus. And what I use for that, right now my favorite combination is I run the Magneto to saturator that comes with Cubase. Then I run it to my offboard gear, my Warm Audio, which is the EQPs, stereo, left and right. Then to the bus comp from Warm Audio, back into my computer, then to Ozone 9, and then I do some work in there. So I'll kind of show you how I do all this. So what you're about to hear is the track with nothing on the master bus at all. So that is just the mix. So I'm going to pull some of these elements over for you. This is the Magneto. So I'm going to start with it off and I'm going to kick it on. So this is it off. Just adds a little saturation, a little bit of warmth. I usually start with the reel to reel and then I do some adjustments down here. So the frequencies I have, the low set to is 40, and then I have it up to almost 10K. And then I have a high frequency adjust at about 1.6 dB. And then I have my saturation at 50%. So again, this is with it on and off. So pretty decent difference, not a ton, not a little, but just like I said, adds that warmth to the track. So next up is I have it run to my analog gear. Now here, this is what you see. Because it's analog, so there's not a display for it. But I have my EQ set to 60 with a bump at 60. And then I have it set to 16K on the high end. And my boost all the way up. So 60 hertz with about a 3 dB boost, 16K all the way up on it. So that seems like a lot, but that's how I want to get that air. But then what I do is I take my high-end cut, run that to 20K, and then I run the cut at about 5. So I'll take a picture of it so you see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to insert the picture from my phone right now. This is how I have my EQ set up for my master bus. Then going down to my bus compressor, that is just kind of a simple glue. I have it maybe hitting at about -3 dB max with a relatively slow-ish attack and a fast-ish release. Not the fastest or slowest options, but somewhere in that neck of the woods. And then I have the makeup at about 3 dB on that. So let me show you the difference that makes. This is with it off, and then I'll turn it on. So again, this is EQP's stereo into my bus comp, bypass right now, and then I'll turn it on. Let me get to a better spot. Let me get here. Just kind of opens everything up. The EQPs to me just, it opens up things. You can just hear everything more clearly, and then once it opens everything up, then the bus comp kind of just glues it together in a way. I love the way these work together in this order. So that's what I have going on there. So again, from the saturation of the Magneto into my EQPs and my bus comp. All of it off. All of it on. Then, after those, then I run to my Ozone. This is kind of a hog on the system, so let me pull it over. Sorry if it's hard to read. So on here, I run an equalizer. Now, this seems like a lot. The EQ in here, to me, has just like such a nice... I don't know, you can get away with a lot. And if you notice here, the dB boosts are pretty minor. So again, something I've been trying to do more of is not read what I'm doing, but listen to what I'm doing. And I feel like this really was the missing high-end EQ shimmer I needed with this track. So that's what I have going on here at the EQ in Ozone 9. Dynamics, I just have, let's see, just a little bit of low-end control, just to kind of keep that low-end kick, sub bass, and everything, just kind of glue it together a little more. Just the low end. So this is set to about 150 hertz. Is all the compression is doing is just attacking 150 and below. And you can see it doing its work right there. So I have the dynamics going. Then I have a dynamic EQ brought in here, doing some work. Then I just have a maximizer. For this track, it seemed to work really well just having the maximizer. Sometimes, most of the time, I also have a limiter in here. But I didn't feel like I needed it for this track. I feel like once I add this maximizer to it, the track was behaving as it should when it came to everything, when it came to levels, just everything. It just, that's where I think it's important to listen to what you're doing and not always work off templates or always do what you think you're supposed to do. So, so I basically put the maximizer in here. Threshold of -6, ceiling of -1. I like to use the classic IRC4 classic setting. And then also I have it set to target -14 LUFs. So that's when I'm done exporting it, it's ready to go to distributors, ready to go to Spotify, things like that. So that's super important to know also. I think that covers it. Let me turn this on and off, what Ozone is doing. So let me get to a chorus and show you the difference it makes. not a huge difference. It just kind of cleans everything up. It's almost like a scalpel. The EQ gets cleaned up a little bit. The low end on the compression gets a little tighter. So yeah, it's just like a nice little finishing touch to the whole thing. So let me close these out, give you the chorus again, show you what it sounds like without the master bus, and then with all the plugins. So this is without. Just opens up so much, you get so much more air. It you know, just makes a huge difference, and it tames everything, glues everything together. So big difference there in my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of the way this song breaks down in depth. What I did with it, what I'm using. I use Easy Drummer 3 on the drums. I use my custom guitar through a fractal on the guitars. Bass was direct inject into the Worm Audio, and then the sub bass, dirty bass, air pad. Those are all the Diva plugin. And the reverse cymbal crash, that is just Easy Drummer crash exported, re-imported. But yeah, the delays, I just use the Cubase delays, the stock plugins. I think they sound great. They work exactly what I need them to do. So yeah, that is this song in a nutshell. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If people dig this, then I'll do more of them. I got a bajillion songs, and I'm always writing more, so there's a never-ending supply of songs for me to break down like this. So, and some of them are way more complex, some of them are way more chill. So yeah, thanks for watching, and again, like this video, and check out the description below for links to things, and listen to the music, listen to this song on Spotify, and yeah, until next time, see you later.